Right. Now, South Africa's National Treasury is asking Parliament to approve changes that would let the Financial Intelligence Centre, that's the FIC, check whether people's lifestyles match the money they say they earn. Now, if the law is updated, then FIC could look into unexplained wealth, hidden income, and even possible tax or corruption issues by comparing spending and income. The goal is to help authorities find and as well as stop illegal financial activity more quickly by using data from public records and other government departments. Let's make sense of this with the acting director from the Financial Intelligence Centre, that's Advocate Pieter Smit, who joins us now. Advocate, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it. Just tell us about this exactly. I mean, what is your sense of how it's set to come about and what authorities it would actually give the Financial Intelligence Centre? National Treasury is suggesting that you then put this forward. What exactly does it entail? Good morning.
Good morning, yes. Yes, this is part of a bigger program of preparing the Financial Intelligence Centre to contribute to efforts in supporting integrity management in the public service. And what the amendments will allow the FIC to do is, upon request by a public entity, a department or an agency of government, to conduct lifestyle audits on, let's say, senior level officials within the entity or prospective candidates that they might be looking to employ in senior positions. Within the public service, there's a system of annual financial disclosures that all senior level officials have to do. And some of the verification of what is declared could also form part of a lifestyle audit process. Currently, the FIC is allowed to do lifestyle audits when we work on suspicious transactions and we're following trails of funds that we believe might be the proceeds of crime. But we cannot do that if there's no suspicion surrounding a person at the outset. And these extended powers will allow the FIC in those circumstances where we're not necessarily suspicious of someone, but for integrity management purposes to conduct a lifestyle audit then on the request of another public entity.
So these would be somebody who enters into what is seen as more senior positions. This wouldn't just be for everyday citizens, ordinary South Africans, everyday citizens, whether it be, I don't know, you, me, or somebody else on the side of the streets or whatever the case might be. It wouldn't necessarily be for everyday citizens, correct?
No, not at all, not at all. The FIC cannot at random conduct a lifestyle audit or even any form of inquiry about a person. There has to be a trigger for our involvement in a particular process. In the ordinary course of things, that would be that suspicious activity that was reported to us by a financial institution, for instance, or an investigation that's underway and a request that's made to us by a law enforcement agency. In these additional instances, it would then be because there's a request by an entity that has an interest in understanding the lifestyle of its employees, the people that it has under its management.
How do we prevent abuse of this? Because if you'll have FIC being able to have the power to access municipal, public entity databases and even share personal information across government departments, there would certainly need to be a few safeguards in place as well, one would imagine.
Yes, yes, certainly. In the instance where we conduct a lifestyle audit based on suspicion, the person who is the subject of that lifestyle audit would not necessarily be aware of it because we would have been working on information that was reported to us in a confidential manner. In these instances that we're talking about now, that the new proposed legislation would allow, if it's passed by Parliament, it would necessarily have to involve at least the awareness of the person, or if not their cooperation, because they would have to supply certain information about their legitimate sources of income. They would have had to make a financial disclosure, for instance, and we would have to work with that information then in the lifestyle audit that we would conduct. So a person would definitely be aware of the fact that this is being done. They would have had to consent to this as part of their conditions of being employed, for instance, with a government entity. And the FIC would not be able to do anything in and of itself with the information that we would gather through a lifestyle audit. We would have to hand that information back to another entity that requested us for this information to act upon. So there are various decision-making points in the process that would have to be met in order to avoid victimization or random abuse of this power.
How much does this actually relate, if at all, to the Financial Action Task Force? Is this in some ways to keep us in the good graces when it comes to that, or does it genuinely pretty much address that domestic corruption and financial crime state that we're looking at within our own borders?
No, this is slightly broader than what is required by the Financial Action Task Force, because here, as I say, it's more aimed at integrating the FIC's work and our contributions that we can make to broader public integrity management, public service integrity management efforts. So this is part of a broader initiative to deal with internal corruption within government, the type of procurement, corruption, fraud, etc. that we've seen, where officials make a very nice living of extracting additional income out of the state, which they should not be entitled to. So this is not directly related to the Financial Action Task Force, but it adds to the context of the effectiveness of the financial crime, anti-financial crime system that we have in place in the country.
Yeah, please explain to me, if you will, as well here, Advocate, just the difference between what you would do and what SARS would do, for example. Would it not be pretty much the same kind of lifestyle audit if it were put in place? Or would this just be in relation to your position that you held? Or two exact of the same lifestyle audits could actually be happening concurrently, depending on who's doing what and for what reason?
It could be very similar in terms of the techniques that are used for the lifestyle audit to what SARS is using. It would be based on the same principle that one would compare the known legitimate income of a person with the ostensible lifestyle that they lead. In the trigger points would be different, though, where SARS would do such a lifestyle audit in order to determine whether there are undeclared taxes that are owed to the state. We would do that more to determine whether an employee should be worried about internal fraud within their organization, or whether there might be indicators that a senior level official is abusing their position within that entity, and that employer would then have to make certain decisions on the basis of that information. Yeah. I just have to say also that there's a very healthy relationship between the FIC and the Revenue Service, and we often share information, and we would definitely avoid a duplication of lifestyle audits in the same instance or in respect of the same person. Yeah. Because we would be able to share that and exchange that information with each other.
I can imagine a lot of that also retrospective, because now banks would have to keep, banks and other financial institutions would need to keep records for, what is it, 7 years instead of the current 5. Is that also just to enhance some of your reporting? That's one. And then two, who would also then oversee this expanded powers of the FIC? Would it be yourself, Advocate?
Yes, the head of the FIC would be the ultimate decision maker and would have to approve in every instance the conduct of a lifestyle audit on the basis of a request that is made to the FIC. We would have to determine that there's a legitimate interest by the requesting entity in having the information at their disposal. The additional power amendments to assist the FIC in conducting its work, for instance, extending the record-keeping period, that relates more to the experience that we've seen, where it takes time to investigate criminal activity, and it's in support of those investigations that we want to ensure that records, especially on financial trails, are available for a longer period of time, if they have to then be used in forensic accounting processes, in testimony in court.
Advocate Pieter Smit, thank you so much for the time. Appreciated. The Acting Director of the Financial Intelligence Center, as we talk just about taking on these lifestyle audits. It's not necessarily for everybody or everyday South Africans, as he made note of, but really in higher positions and prominent positions as well, where this would really be taking effect as well, as National Treasury tries to crack down on crime and corruption.